Awesome. Happy Monday, everybody. I am back. I know I still have the sniffles, but you guys are joining me for an author talk short. And my lovely guest is Lynne Harley today. So, Lynne, tell us a little bit about what genre you write in and how you became a writer.
Thanks, Amy. Well, I've actually just written and published my first book this summer, and it wasn't really planned. It felt more like a download. So I've written a children's story called What If You Could that has really a very deep and universal message. So the inspiration for this book is that I'm a life coach and I coach people into transformation. And this book is about a little caterpillar who is longing for more, who wants to get off of this branch and quit eating leaves. And
I love it.
thank you.
I love that. So, how did this story? I know it sounds like it wasn't very much planned. So, how did it kind of come about where it just stumbled into what it is?
Well, I sort of coach. Well, I do, don't sort of. I coach on the idea that there's just this sort of bigger version of who we are, and we often don't live into it. We live very muted lives. And this is kind of a tongue in cheek because nature doesn't overthink its becoming. We know that a caterpillar will become a butterfly if the conditions are right. And in my story, the caterpillar can think. So that right away is a good indication that his thinking can serve him or it can actually kind of take him off his path of becoming. And this is what happens. So this is book, and I coach this. I mean, I'm coaching adults older than me and younger than me who really are still struggling with which voice they're listening to. So the voice that, pushes us by our conditions, by what we've known up until now, by what we think is possible, or the voice that really invites us to live into our what if you could? What if you could do that? What would you love? And so this is what that book is. It's about.
See, I love that. So I have little kids. I have a 3 and a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much like, oh, you can try this, like venture out, we don't have to be in a bubble, right? Because you never know what you could be great at or what, hey, at least you tried it, right? You never know. And so I love that, that's what you teach. And now it's, in a children's form, which I think to me, children have the most precious like imagination and drive to do things. So I love to hear that. So is your book heavily illustrated or what?
It's children's genre? Sorry, and I'm going to just step away for 2 seconds.
Oh, you're fine.
This book is, I'm going to say, beautifully illustrated. I had an absolute vision of what I wanted, and my illustrator did a phenomenal job. So,
I love that.
It's and every page has an illustration. Every page is bright and colorful, and it's also a rhyming book. So I think when my kids were younger, I loved reading things like Dr. Seuss to them. There was this jingle and they would start to, even before they could read, they would know what was coming next. So it's written for children 4 to 8, but I just want to share that I have coaches in the business and I'm gifting it to people I work with because this message is for all of us. And the message really is that there's 2 voices that always visit us internally. Sometimes it comes from other people when we're getting ready to leave our comfort zone. And so I think we need to normalize that voice that's not very nice, the one that goes, well, who do you think you are? How's that ever going to work for you? Your dreary coat keeps you safe. Why would you want to go beyond what you know? Right. And then the other voice. So the other thing that happened this summer is I actually rode my bike for almost 2,000 kilometers promoting my book across Canada and also the message for youth mental health. So a portion of every book that I've written is donated to an amazing organization called jack.org. And they're working really hard to reduce the suicide rates amongst youth in our world. So I feel like it's a beautiful win-win. And part of my why was that my brother struggled with mental health and he died 5 years ago. So this book is dedicated to his memory. And I just think that it's an opportunity to really celebrate his life and make a difference with what has happened.
Oh, I love that. I am a huge advocate for mental health, especially among our youth, and especially, here in the States when everything closed down. I feel like it's more prevalent now than, you have been able to see. And so I love that. let's backpedal a little bit though and talk about your 2,000-kilometer bike ride. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just did a blog actually about the power of one single decision. And just often that it's our longing and discontent for more that starts to fuel what we want to do. So this book, this whole vision morphed. It started out as post COVID, I went on a first cycle trip. I moved to a new community to meet new people. And at first, I was talking myself out of it. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where it was, but I made a decision. Look, it's time to get back out there. And so I met these women that toured. And by the time I left that day, I was on fire. I was on fire, and this whole logistical mind came up about all the reasons why this wasn't going to work. Never done anything like this before, but it morphed. I mean, all of a sudden, I decided I'd written my book. I'd had it out to publishers. I decided, what if somebody said, call it your What If You Could tour, which really I lived into that this summer because I had no idea at the onset if I could do this. And I'll tell you, it was not without, trials and tribulations, which we know is all part of persevering. So I decided for my book, I decided I would self-publish, and then all of a sudden a publisher picked it up. And then I decided I was going to do this in memory of Jack.org because I talked to them when I wrote the book, knowing that I wanted to leave some kind of a sort of a legacy for my brother, and it just morphed. And I decided I was going to go to Quebec because I was going to be officiating my oldest son's wedding there. So
wow.
On May 1st, when I left my house, I had no idea of anything except that I was going on a bike ride that day. I ended up leaving on June 19th. And it's just amazing how things fell into place. And this is what I coach. When we decide for what we really love and we move forward, endeavoring to live the life we love, all sorts of things start to happen for us.
I love that. There is so much in this conversation. I wish it's like one of those, we needed the full 45 minutes, for many of these. But I love that it's in memory of your brother. And you did this 2,000 kilometer, right? Because I'm getting my measurements mixed up, which I do all the time when I get my time zones mixed up and everything, especially like when I talk to Mickey, I never can get the conversions or anything right. But your 2,000-kilometer bike ride that you did, you're a huge advocate for mental health. And you have this, What If You Could book, which is such a great and a powerful statement, I feel like, for youngers and bringing all of that together. And the fact that you were going to self-publish it and then a publisher picked it up. I mean, this has been a great year for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's bringing numerous opportunities. And one of them is just being able to be hosted on your podcast. So I really appreciate that I can get this message out even more, because I do have a big vision for moving forward and what this book will do when it reaches.
And I think, yeah. And I have no doubt that you'll get there. I have none at all. I have no doubt. But you did decide to join me in my crazy self. I know I don't seem that way right now, but it's once, I'm not under the weather, I'm telling you, I always come with a disclaimer, Lynn, and that's my personality is a lot. It's very energetic and bubbly usually all of the time. And I am 100% that way when you meet me. But you decided to join me in my crazy self for my 12 days of page turners. And you're going to be joining me December 2nd with some other really big names. And we're going to be talking more about your book. But we're going to talk about that bike ride some more. I'm telling you, I'm very impressed with that. I haven't ridden a bike in years. So I definitely want to dive in. But you are going to be doing some kind of holiday promotion this season for the 12 days. So without telling us a lot of what it is, can you give us a hint as to what we can expect to hear from you on the 2nd?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want everybody who's listening to know that a portion of every book that is sold is going to be donated to this organization that supports our youth with mental health. And I'm going to offer a masterclass, a complimentary ticket to an upcoming masterclass to listeners. And I'll have more about that promotion on the 2nd. And it is called What If You Could Too. So I really want to support people who are listening, adults who are listening, to live into the bigger version of what they would love, and to give them some tools, some key strategies that they can begin to do that now.
I love that. I cannot wait to dive in more about your masterclass. A free complimentary ticket is huge. So I can't wait to dive in more about that on December 2nd and dive more into your writing, but what is next for you? Are you going to continue writing and write another book, or what are your goals with that?
Well, I'm actually in the process right now of developing my own coaching program, a 6-month program called What If You Could, that I'm going to be launching in January, and just really getting myself out there on other people's stages to share what I'm doing, because I feel really passionate about advocating for mental health. I think part of mental wellness is learning that that voice is going to show up, that we don't have to listen to it, that we can override it, and that requires us getting quiet. Sometimes we're very caught up in busyness. There's often a feeling of stuckness, and this is the people I support, people who, are struggling, who don't know how to move forward, who are maybe coming out of a very difficult life circumstance, or they're in transition like retirement or empty nesting or a divorce, and just really supporting people to start to live from a vision. There's so much power just in that one, knowing that when we have, we're pulled by something we would really love to live into, then we're no longer pushed by the pain that we may be experiencing in that moment.
See, I love that. I always call that voice my Debbie Downer voice, and it's just like wants to get you down. You're just like, no, I'm gonna choose. I always say that I choose to live, puppies and rainbows. Everything's puppies and rainbows. It's so happy.
Yes.
But I do know that voice that you're saying, and it is one I get a lot, like when I'm sick, like my Debbie Downer voice, like, oh, we can't do this. You don't have any energy to do this. You're gonna get winded, all of those, just because you're sick, right? And mental health can affect all of those things, and being, straight there. And I am a firm believer in just sometimes quiet or stillness,
Mm-hmm.
I could never do a silent weekend like, the co-host did, where you don't talk at all. That would be incredibly difficult for me. I am a talker. But I do know, like, for mental health, like getting out in nature or just taking time for yourself is really important. So I am a huge advocate for that. I love this is the second conversation that I have had about mental health. And so I love that this is a conversation and books are being written about it and strengthening mental health and bringing awareness to it, because it is something that is very damaging, especially amongst our youth and society today. So thank you so much. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come and talk with me, and for joining me on the 12 Days of Page Turner. So you guys, if you want to hear more from Lynne Harley, she's going to be joining us December 2nd at 7 p.m. Central. Alexa Big Wharf will also be on. Valerie Sweden. That is a day you are not going to want to miss. But get up and get behind this book and this movement and conversation on mental health. But until then, you guys, we will catch you all starting in December. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Amy. My pleasure.